So I'll put here online myself.
Wait, I will check if I can hear you.
No, I will ask. I think that we can start.
Enjoy.
Hello, everyone. I'm just wondering if you can confirm how you can hear me and whether the picture is okay, so whether we can start. If you can just confirm it in the chat. Hello, can you hear me well? Hello, Claire. Hello, Eric. Okay, great, thanks. I see a couple of good friends from Sigfox here. I see a couple of Sigfox operators as well, so welcome and hello to Latin America, hello to Japan. We'll be starting in like 2 or 3 minutes. We will not be delaying it that much. And I want to leave a pretty large space for your questions that you were always interested in. So, hello Claire, hello Kiyoshi, hello Eric. Okay, great. So I showed you. I'm just waiting for my coffee, and we'll start within 30 seconds. Jesteś jedno. Třikrát jsem to říkal, stačí mi jedno. Třikrát, no ale stačí mi to říkal ze zavřený. Úplně v pohodě. So, let's start. About this webinar, the technical level will be intermediate, so if you are very deep technical, we can go into more details in your Q&As, in the Q&A session. The presentation will be around 30 minutes. It will be not that long. It depends on your questions as well. And just a little bit to my background, why I think that I'm a little bit qualified to talk about Sigfox coverage. I have done Sigfox planning in 5 countries, negotiated Sigfox coverage commitments in a couple of countries. We also managed to be the first country in the world, in the Czech Republic, to meet the Sigfox coverage commitment. And I'm also the one who made a public user interface, a public interface, so you can check your precise location for the coverage, which is available as a SimpleHW/coverage. And I'm also the one behind the CheckFox Sigfox measuring device and the dashboard. And plus, I was involved really with hundreds of Sigfox pilots and field deployments, not only in the Czech Republic, but currently already worldwide. So I'm not very deeply technical, so if we have someone from Sigfox research online, so they can catch my work, because I'm really not a deep radio guy. I'm more on the business side. But I think that we can combine those two worlds so the business understands the technical stuff, and the technical stuff understands better the business requirements. If you can of course listen to presentation online, so you can rewind it. You can have it a little bit quicker than I'm talking. You will be able also to download the presentation that I'm presenting, and there are 2 downloadable documents, one which describes Sigfox coverage, one that describes Sigfox coverage measurement methodology using CheckFox or any reference device. So those documents are freely available for you for download. I will start what is really unique about Sigfox, and when we are talking about coverage, what is a difference between coverage by Sigfox or coverage by narrowband IoT or coverage by LoRa or coverage by LTE. The first thing that we need to understand that it's a connectionless network. So it's a probabilistic network where, similar to the UDP protocol on the internet, the messages are sent to the network and they are not confirmed by the base station. It has advantages and it has its disadvantages. So the major advantage is that you don't need to synchronize, you don't need to do a handshake between the device and the base station, which enables you not to be, which basically you cannot jam the devices, you cannot interfere with the device, and the signal that the device emits is always captured by the base station, because normally when you are doing the jamming, you are not jamming the base station, but you are jamming the receiving side of the device. It also lowers the battery consumption. It enables you the modem to be far less complex and far cheaper than if you do the handshake stuff. So those are the major advantages. The major disadvantage is that if you send a message, you are relying on so-called diversities in delivering the message, because the base station is not going, or the network is not going to tell you, I didn't receive this packet, I didn't receive this part of the message, please repeat it. That's not how it works in Sigfox. You just send the message, and the message is captured by the network and is delivered to the backend. The three diversities of the probabilistic model relies on three principles. Each of the information, each of the message is sent at different times. So each message is sent basically 3 times. It's sent in 3 times in different time space. So you have the time diversity. Then it's also being captured by different base stations. So it is the space diversity, that even when one base station is down or when it's really jammed, the other base stations are able to capture the signal. And the third one, diversity, is the frequency, because each of the messages is sent on a slightly different frequency. So if there is a big interference in one of the frequencies, the message is still delivered to the base station. So it's quite critical to understand that even it's one of the few networks that support the SLA, the service level agreement. It's still a probabilistic network. It's not something that you would be using for some kind of life critical application. It's we also need to manage the expectation of the customers, that if they really expect to receive 100% of the messages, it's not probably going to happen if you are in a really well covered area. So you will be getting close to 99%. If you are in a very poorly covered area, you will be getting 50-60% delivery success rate, which is not bad, because we have a tendency, as most of us, we are living in big cities, so we think that the data or the LTE is 100% reliable, which is not. When you talk to the real people using the LTE modems, LTE backhauls, so they tell you that even the 99% reliability of the Sigfox is pretty high, and that it's something that that's something that we can live with. So 99% is nothing that bad. The other thing that differentiates Sigfox from other networks, it's a managed network. So it's a network where Sigfox operators worldwide are overseeing the base stations, are overseeing the performance. They have strict SLAs, how if the base station goes down. So for instance, we have in our agreements that all the base stations, if they go down, they need to be repaired within 24 hours by the service organization. When there's some kind of local interference, we are solving it with the radio authority. So it's a managed network. It's not something that a team of students are building up in one city or on one campus, but it's a network with oversight. The other differentiation is also that Sigfox is pretty strict in pushing the the coverage commitments, or the coverage standards worldwide. So you can count that, for instance, if you have a use case of tracking, so you can count on some of the level of coverage in all the countries worldwide. And the last one is also rather important. We need to understand that Sigfox is working really on the edge of the possible, on the edge of the physically possible. So there is a little space of error. With normal GSM or with normal LTE or with Wi-Fi, you have far more space for errors, for bad installation, for misconfiguration. So it's far less. It's far more. The classical networks are less prone to errors than Sigfox is. Sigfox, really, you need with Sigfox, you need to keep proper installation. The devices need to work properly. It's not that forbidding. I cannot find the word now in English. I'm sorry, but it's a network that needs in the deployment. The deployment of the devices and the deployment of the network needs to be really done properly. So what is the current situation with Sigfox coverage? You know that Sigfox Connect is in Singapore is coming pretty soon. So new countries will be definitely announced by Sigfox. Currently, 60 countries are being built up. 21 countries are covered completely. 1 billion people covered. 5 million square kilometers. After the Singapore announcements, those numbers will be even higher. So I think that Sigfox is really the only one worldwide working functioning network. Then there's a map from Sigfox. We are not revealing any secrets. That's the dark blue are currently covered. The lighter gray, lighter blue those are the countries that will be announced. I would assume within 12 months. So it will be really worldwide coverage, even without the satellite program that Sigfox is working at. So I'll start with something concrete. I'll start with the equipment that is available. For the Sigfox operators, if Sigfox operators are currently using the macro and mini access stations to build up the basic coverage. And then you have two devices that can be either bought or rented from the Sigfox operators, or even Sigfox operators can deploy them, but mostly users are using them. And that's a micro access station and a repeater. Micro base station, it's in the form of I don't have an here, but it's in the form of a small Wi-Fi router. It includes a GSM dongle, so it's very easily it's very easy to deploy. It can be even deployed outdoors. Repeater it's a device that just it's basically a Sigfox device itself. It just doesn't do anything. That it listens to close by few Sigfox devices and it repeats the signals farther. I have a comparison table here about the different about comparing the different solutions. The micro base station, the price range, it depends on the country. It's between 250 and 400 euros. And what is important to understand is that micro is mostly being used on like large residential complexes inside. If you have a large storage premises, if you have a factory, so those are the places where micro can help to densify and to add to the general Sigfox coverage. The repeater is a little bit more limited because it can repeat only a few devices. It's in the uplink. It's limited to 140 messages itself. So it's not if you connect 10 devices to it. So each of the device can have only 10 messages a day. But it's quite useful if you really need to just think about the repeater as a prolonging line. If you have something deep in the cellar, So you put it on the ground floor, and then it repeats the signal of the few devices that are in the neighborhood. So think of it as a line that prolongs the Sigfox signal. Typical outdoor reach for the macro in the terrain is about 50 kilometers. For the mini, it's about 10 kilometers. For micro, it's around 1 kilometer, and repeater is about 300 meters from the device. Typical indoor reach, we have tested micros performing pretty well. So even if you're a large residential building or large factory, it works pretty well in all the directions. Micro is usable, and repeater works indoor up to 50 meters. So if you would have any more questions, you can study the table, and we can get to the details later on in the questions. Now, what are the coverage maps? Sigfox is allowing or is publishing coverage maps to the customers. Once you'll get the backend login as either as an integrator or as a customer, so you are getting to the coverage maps. It's the first thing which is important to understand is that all the coverage is always calculated as coverage outdoors at 1.5 meters above ground level and about 1 meter from any wall. So it's not the mathematical model is just calculating one level, and that this one. The others are always deduced from this outdoor coverage. I'll try to share with you my screen. If I'll be I'm screen sharing. Okay, just give me I hope it will work. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my background. I'm wondering, can you see you can see just only my background now, I assume. I'm so sorry. Let me. So I hope you are able to see my screen now. Yes, you are able to see my screen now. So if you go to the backend Sigfox.com to the basic screen, you click on the service maps. You'll choose the proper operator because currently Sigfox is not yet supporting showing coverage in different worldwide. You need to change. You need to choose the operator. And if you look at the Belgium, so you can see the coverage. What is important to understand is the interface. So this is always because Sigfox tends to be sometimes a little bit too technical, so they call this service overlap for max link budget. This is the outdoor coverage map. So this is not a map that would be telling you how is the coverage inside. So if I go to any of the if I go to any big detail, so you can see that this town Ronce, it's pretty well covered. The colors in this on the screen, they represent how many base stations are covering this precise spot. So you can see that the center of town is covered by 3 base stations, and the outskirts, which is green, it's 2 base stations, and blue is 1 base station. If I want to see indoor coverage, so I'll switch the Sigfox service map to the 20 dB margin. Basically, when the signal needs to get out from a room, you need to count into something that it's called attenuation or margins, and by that you are getting either the indoor coverage or you are getting the deep indoor coverage. 20 dB margin, it'll be back in my presentation, but basically 20 dB margin is the one that is used generally for any kind of indoor, meaning it's a room with windows and with non-metallic windows, because metallic windows can screw up the signal pretty well. So generally, any kind of residential building with window is at 20 dB margin. If I switch the view into the 20 dB margin, I can see that some of the areas are less covered, and some of the woods probably, or some even maybe some here dwellings in Belgium, even on first sight, it seems to be pretty well covered. So we can see that some residential areas have no indoor coverage in Belgium. And the thing is that if you want to see deep indoor coverage, it's around 30 dB margin, and it represents rooms without windows, or first level underground with window, or things behind metallic windows. So we have no simple way how to see this coverage. You can see it if you get to the product classes. I'll get to the product classes later on, but basically product classes gives you a little bit more attenuation of the signal. So if you are using a device that it's not the class 0, but it's class 1 or class 2, so you can use it either here to have a model of the coverage for this device, or you can see the level of deep indoor coverage. And deep indoor coverage is attenuation, something between 1U or 2U. So if you want to see deep indoor coverage at 1U, this is the deep indoor, and 2U, it's really very deep indoor. So, and if I go, so you can see that not all, even on first sight, it seems that Belgium is totally covered. If you really need deep indoor coverage, it's mostly covered, but it's not completely covered. So that was, I will stop sharing the screen. I will go back to the presentation. So as I said, outdoor, it's always measured 1.5 meters above ground. Please, if you measure it at the ground level, it's totally different coverage than 1.5 meter above ground. So don't be surprised when you want to have, for instance, soil moisture meters and you put them just above ground. The coverage is far worse. It can be the difference between 1.5 meter and 0.0 meter can be up to 20 dB. Because the model really takes into account the heights. Again, as I said, indoor, deep indoor, and please be aware with the office buildings that the metallic facades or windows, they can really act as Faraday cages. So for any kind of big office buildings with metallic windows, either you need to leverage and you need to deploy a micro base station, or the local coverage must be with a margin of 30 to 40 dB. You need to really to have the proper coverage for the metallic windows. When we have seen the map that I was showing you, the coverage, It's just few technical details. All the coverage is calculated just by using three different variables. And the first one is the distance from the base station, from the place where I need the coverage. If you have direct line of sight, you know that Sigfox can reach up to 200 kilometers in direct line of sight. If you don't have, if the device is in a deep valley, it's not going to help you even if the base station is 1 kilometer away. The other thing is, of course, the terrain, the undulation. So when you do the planning, you try to put the base stations as high as possible in most of the cases, so they can see the devices directly in direct line of sight. And the last thing that is taken into account is the clutter, which is basically the type of settlement, of type of dwelling that brings some kind of natural attenuation. The signal is spread out differently over water, over woods, over fields, in high urban areas. You have also a higher background noise in the urban areas. So those are all the factors that come into the arithmetic model that you can see, and you can see where you can see the coverage. To say the truth, from the field experience, even Sigfox is currently working on a new model, on improvement of the model. Even though the current one works pretty well, and we hope that the new one will work even better. Plus, Sigfox operators are also working with something that's called population density, where they are calculating how much population, what is the percentage of the population that Sigfox is covering in each of the country. But the population density has no influence on customers, so it's a little bit on the marketing side. And when we are saying that we are covering 85% or 80% or 90% of the population, the tools available for us as Sigfox operators, they enable us to calculate those things, but they don't influence the customers anyway. So, as I told you, Sigfox is pretty strict in pushing worldwide coverage commitments to all the territories. Nevertheless, they are unique for each of the operators, and they are also, the coverage commitments are evolving over time. So they used to be slightly different, or the definition of them used to be different few years ago, and they are a little bit different now. Some of the coverage commitments make sense. Some of them they don't make any sense. It's a long fight with Sigfox, because some of them they don't make any sense. And the only long-term common commitment seems to be really the 85% indoor population coverage. So this is something that's crucial, and that Sigfox is pushing worldwide, and you can rely that really 85% of the population in your area will be covered. One of the things that is slightly missing from the coverage commitments is because they are mostly based on the population coverage, and they don't take into account the new use cases where we see Sigfox worldwide, so basically tracking. And so ports, transit railway lines, international crossings are a little bit missing, highways are a little bit missing out of the coverage commitment, and it's always up to the Sigfox operator to really cover their country properly, so the use cases that are being deployed have good coverage, even on the places that are not pushed by Sigfox from the coverage commitment point of view. Plus, also you need, because a lot of the goods, they go through the airports, so we need to have a really good deep indoor coverage at the airports. One of the things that I a little bit I missed now explaining is the redundancy. Because as I told you, Sigfox is a probabilistic network, and in order to work most of the places, it's not enough that the place, that the spot is covered just by one base station, but it needs to be covered by multiple base stations in order to achieve this 99% SLA. So the aim of the coverage, the aim of the build-up of the network is really to cover most of the territory by multiple base station. And for the use cases, it's also something that you should be asking your Sigfox operator or Sigfox to deliver. So worldwide, all major cities, ports, airports should have full. So it means in all places, deep. It means really deep indoor, not just on the not just behind window, but really deep indoor and redundant. So it means that, for instance, when we have done planning for Switzerland or for Czech Republic, the airports are covered by 3 to 4 base stations to really cover it from all the angles and to increase the probability of the signal delivery. It's not enough to put one base station on an airport and think that it will be done. And I don't know precisely in other continents, but in Europe, you should be expecting that all towns and villages above 4,000 people should have full indoor coverage. So for B2C cases or for water metering, all the villages above 4,000 people should have coverage. Basically, it's the only way how you can achieve the 85% indoor coverage commitment. So this is something that you should be asking for from Sigfox operators. And all towns above 10,000 should have a redundant coverage. So at least 2 base stations need to be covering any town above 10,000 people. We also, of course, ask for all international highways, major highways, ports, border crossings should have indoor coverage. Maybe you are asking what for indoor coverage, why we need, wouldn't 0 dB margin wouldn't be enough. Not necessarily, because Sigfox, as it's in a moving object, it loses a little bit of the budget link because of the fading. So in order the object to be tracked properly on the highways, on the railways, during the border crossings, and either you need to detect that the object has stopped and send the signal only in the stop position, or you need to have a 20 dB margin, 20 to 30 dB margin in order to receive the signal. And you should expect also over 90% of the country should have outdoor coverage. It depends. Again, the case is a little bit different in Belgium, different in Norway, different in Switzerland when you have the high mountains. It's interesting that really the high mountains, especially Alps, are hard to cover because you have this high peak and deep valley. So even Sigfox is able to see 200 kilometers. So even if you put it on the highest peak, you have the shadows, and it's not easy to cover large parts of the mountain. So of course you can cover all the ski areas. This can be done, but if you want to cover really large and very pointy mountains, that's a tough job. It's not easy. So the question is Sigfox coverage usable for my project? Please always start not by the coverage itself, but by doing the complete discovery and project definition. That's my mantra. I am repeating it on all the webinars. You know that. Because in order to decide whether even Sigfox itself is appropriate for your use case, you need to understand the business case. Just today I had a phone call, again, a company to do pallet tracking, and when I was asking why do they want to do the pallet tracking, they were not sure. So always ask why, at what precision, at what time, what is the business case, because only after you understand the business case, you can understand whether the coverage commitments are okay. And don't forget one thing, that Sigfox technology is always targeting only 7% of the IoT market. So very often other technologies, LoRa, if you want to have factory covered, if you want to do automation, so LoRa or a campus, LoRa can be of better usage in some use cases. GSM, it's still available. It can be used if you don't care that much about battery life, or if you don't care that much about the cost of the hardware or the cost of the connectivity. Bluetooth, in some cases, Wi-Fi can be better solution than Sigfox. So always have a look at the business case and whether Sigfox is fit for this business case. So if the project is within one country, that's quite simple. You can look at the coverage maps. You can talk to your Sigfox operator, and you can also submit the list of location to the Sigfox operator. Sigfox operator have access. You have access to it as well, but it's easier if the Sigfox operator does it for you, to so-called global coverage API. So they can run a script that very easily tells you if you submit 2,000 locations, so they can automatically basically give you an answer what is the level of coverage of those 2,000 locations, and you can then discuss whether it's okay for you, whether it needs to be densified, whether it needs to be densified by the Sigfox operator, or whether it will be densified by you as a client. It's a matter of negotiation. Please be reasonable on both sides. If you have a village of 200 people in a deep valley somewhere, Sigfox operator is not going to roll out a base station. The base station, the hardware itself costs something, installation costs something, maintenance costs something. So for Sigfox operator, it always needs to have a business sense. So it depends on the size of the rollout, but please talk to each other. Some of the use cases that we have also seen, that the location that the customer themselves, the end customers, are offering their installation points. So if you have a network of hotels, for instance, a Sigfox operator can use those hotels as location base, and they can install the base station on the top of the hotels, and it's a win-win situation because you have the complete building coverage, 100% reliable, and Sigfox has a free of charge installation point. The thing gets a little bit complicated once you have multiple countries and you don't have million devices. If you have million devices, so you'll have account manager with Sigfox, and Sigfox will talk to you directly. But if you have a few devices and you try to solve multiple countries, current situation is not completely rosy, because it doesn't make sense for you to talk to each of the operator in each of the country, and there's currently no mechanism how to negotiate those deals. I would recommend going either to the Sigfox country manager or to the Sigfox regional or super regional managers in order to ensure that the coverage is okay in all locations that you need to be covered. Sigfox is looking for business. So again, it's a matter of it's a matter of use case by use case. The situation is improving all the time, so more and more base stations are being deployed, but it can happen that one factor is not covered, and then either you need to cover it yourself, or you need to renegotiate with the local with the Sigfox either operator or Sigfox people this factory to be covered. One of the things that I think one of the areas where I really think that Sigfox should improve somehow, because it's not easy for end customers if they need to track goods across 5 different countries, and they need to negotiate with 5 different countries. It doesn't make that much sense. Sigfox should take care of that far better than it is doing. I have last 3 slides. How to measure Sigfox coverage. We have a complete document, so I'm not going to go into details now how to measure Sigfox coverage. just please bear in mind what are you actually measuring. Are you measuring the predicted coverage versus the real coverage at the spot? Or are you measuring whether the reference device will work at the installation spot? Or whether we are measuring the attenuation, the difference between the reference measurement and the final destination? Or what is the reliability of the reception of the time? Or does the hardware device work well as a reference device? So you please don't use dev kit or don't use prototypes for coverage measurement, because it doesn't make any sense. You always use either reference device to do real measurement, and always also do it like step by step. So you first measure it at the reference level at 1.5 meters, then you go indoor, you measure indoor, then you go to the deep indoor, you measure it deep indoor, and then you go to the final point of installation to see the coverage, because that's Sigfox operators are not able to help you analyze the situation unless you provide them as much data and as much information as possible. Also, please always take photos and always follow at least some methodology. So especially don't work with the device while measuring, take notes, take photos, because otherwise we as Sigfox operators, we are not able to help you if you don't provide us this proper data. Yeah, and I have last slide that it's not, I have a document about it, about the placement of devices, and there are some more documents about the device emission classes, and maybe some final remarks about the usability. You know that the Sigfox is measuring the devices, how well they are emitting, and they are basically classifying the devices into 4 different classes: class 0, 1, 4, 2, and 3. Class 0 being the best one, class 0 being the worst one. There are, with the measurement, there are, and we see it more and more, there are 2 major issues. 3 major issues is with the measurement. So the first one is that it's measured in an anechoic chamber. So you put it into a chamber without any reflections, basically like in a vacuum, and you measure the radiated power. The thing is that in the real life, the devices are not in vacuum, they are not in an anechoic chamber. You attach them to different things, and the radio characteristics can be totally different from the laboratory measurements. So that's one skew. The other one is that what is Sigfox measuring is that they are taking like a globe, and they are measuring the highest peak in one direction to determine the radiated power. And the peak can be in totally different directions than your devices on the installation point. That's the second thing. And the other one, and the third one, is that they are measuring some kind of laboratory sample or one sample, and the sample can differ totally from the production. There are so many parameters that can be configured on the Sigfox devices that the laboratory measurement can be, and you can make so many faults in the manufacture of the device that the sample can differ completely from the devices that you receive into your hands. So please don't rely completely on the classes of the devices. It's a preliminary guidance, so you know that if it's class 3 or class 2, that is really a shitty device. But even if it's class 0, always test the device at least somehow. Do a small POC whether it works fine for your use case and for your installation. And for the installation, always talk to the device manufacturer, because they can have recommendation how to install the simple, not the SimpleHW, but the device, how to install it best. Also, bear in mind that the higher you put the device, the better. Sometimes it can help even to move during installation device by a few centimeters, because Sigfox has a tendency that you can have a little bit different conditions even if you move the device by 5 or 10 centimeters. So you need to experiment a little bit in the device location. You can also, if it's a total metallic object that you want to attach the device to, so you can try to have something between the device and the metallic object, because the metallic objects, they tend to they have a big ground plane and they tend to detune the devices. So if you put some kind of distance between the object and the metallic object, between the device and the metallic object, this can help. Also, if you have a wall, for instance, the best way is to put some kind of distance between the wall and the device. Therefore, for instance, with the SimpleHW, with the SimpleHW, we have this design that doesn't allow you to put the device directly against any wall. You have also, there's always a distance between the wall and between the wall and the device. Also, quite dangerous are metallic door. If you have office metallic doors, so they can also detune, or they can even block if the glass has a metallic coating, so it can quite well block the Sigfox signal. So be aware a little bit of the metallic door. So that's all from my side. I think that really Sigfox the Sigfox technology is working fine. It's not an automatic technology. It's not something that works just out of the box. It's really more intended for integrators for B2B or B2B2C cases. So it's not something that would work automatically. But it's a very cool technology, and we have a strong belief in it. And especially as the new countries are going to be announced, it's really the only technology working worldwide reliably. So I'm now open to your questions. If you have any questions in the chat, you are welcome to post them now. If something was not clear, or if it was too much, any feedback would be appreciated. No questions this time? Kiyosh, we have a question. Okay. Some new people from Japan. Yeah. If you don't have any question, you can always email me or chat with us online. And thanks for your attention. And let's hope that we'll see each other on some more webinars. We are running, I think it's next week. I'll be at IoT Solutions in Barcelona, and we are from there. We are running a webinar for WND Mexico next tomorrow. But on October 30th, we'll be running a webinar on IOFrog, and then the total IoT project delivery, and in November the one about the call chain monitoring. So if you want to attend, we have still some places open. Okay, thanks for the positive feedback. I really appreciate positive feedbacks. That's really nice to hear that it makes sense for you. And please see the slides again and the recording, and enjoy the day or the afternoon or the evening for Japan. Thanks for your attention, and see you next time. Bye.